After locating the Temple of Elemental Evil, our heroes have made their final plans in preparation for their assault on the insidious cult that waits just a door beyond. Donning disguises, and with help from some new friends, the time for action has arrived.
Okay, Camera, get over here and help me with this, will you?
Hey, let me show you how to move a barrel.
Agilus begins to transport the barrel to the aforementioned location of the plan, according to Nolome's specifications. On their approach to the haunting inner doors, Nolome advised Coulter to remove his disguise, so that the party might have another convincing prisoner to take along. Coulter seemed relieved to be out of the strange garbs. While the party got into position, Nolome noticed the doors leading outside were still wide open. He took it upon himself to close them, though the metal gates that seemed blown open from within wouldn't budge. Nolome and Wolfrun cautiously approached the strange inner door at the head of the party. As you two approach, the leathery webs recede again.
You ready, Nolome?
Nolome gestures to the remaining members of the party and indicates that they should join Zaid on the other side of the oil barrel.
Bix nods. Bix himself was a half-elf, just like Nolome. This could be what caused him to take a shining to him. However, Bix was a member of a gathering of hill people called the Veladon Warriors. These were men who had adopted the blood god Olmruga as their patron deity. Those who have heard of them whisper about bloody rampages and a depraved desire for killing.
Hey, ready when you are.
It was decided that Nolome and Wolfrun would enter the meeting room with the objective to pose as cultists and lure out the most senior member present.
Opening the door.
The face rolls away and it unsegments itself. The conversation seems to be a little bit more heated inside.
I motion with my hand to my eyes and then point down towards the cultists.
More red corridor?
We must speak to our superior.
Is this about the prisoners?
It is. We must talk to him, personally.
Bring in the prisoners.
We can't at this moment, that's why we must speak to him.
All right. He turns to guide you. Both of you walk into a conversation. It seems to be concluding as you arrive, but the tail end mentioned the whereabouts of members of the Dark Corridor and the amount of members of the Red Corridor and the state of their plans for Avendrad. The ones wearing blue and the one wearing blue and green scoff and groan.
More? Who approved this? It should be self-evident,
says the one holding a strange orb.
Our numbers swell, something you will have to get used to, I'm afraid.
They kind of close their ranks a little bit and lower their voice. The others turn towards Wolfrun, ignoring how Nolome sort of snuck past and blended in with the shadows. The one you met earlier, the Red Corridor cultist that you met outside, turns to you in recognition. Hello. Where are your prisoners?
That's what I've come to speak to our leader about.
The Beholder?
No.
He and the other one share a confused expression, and the one in blue next to you kind of tenses.
Look, there's no real time to discuss this. I need whoever's the superior in command to follow me. The prisoners are attempting to escape. They haven't yet, but I need him to come with me.
The one you hadn't met before, in the Red Corridor, wielding these two daggers, sighs and then reaches into his cowl to pinch the bridge of his nose. The one you know, over here, shares in the sigh. Who was your sponsor, by the way?
You've never heard of him.
Their silence held a threat all on its own. No, of course not, says the one who you first met.
Well, he must be here somewhere.
Now, these two didn't sponsor each other, did they?
The one wearing blue laughs very loudly, making the others look towards you. Then he walks over the long way around to the rest of his friends. He also seems to ignore Nolome.
Look, I just need somebody with authority to come with me.
They look at each other. How new are you?
Apparently far newer than I thought I was.
The Red Corridor cultist points out the senior-most member of the cultists in the room. Yes, well, he's the most venerable of those gathered right now. This is not a good time to have slip-ups. What is the situation?
There's some kind of
Quietly.
ooze or something he's secreting that he's making his way out of his bonds with. It's disgusting.
Oh my god. Okay. Are you aware of the situation further down?
No. Is everything alright?
Not exactly. Ever since the mishap in Avendred, members of the Dark Corridor have gone missing. We are on the knife's edge here. It seems a little disagreements are coming to a head.
Maybe that's what happened to my sponsor. I haven't been to Avendred in a few weeks even.
Both of these people wearing red and black share another longer moment of suspicious silence.
I'm assuming Nolame, with his half-elven hearing, was able to hear what Wolfrun was saying, correct?
Yes.
Nolame focuses on casting a very minor illusion, but hopefully one that will help Wolfrun urge the folks in the room along into doing what we want. And so he casts an illusion of a voice coming from the other side of the door. I imagine that it would actually, the target of the spell would be the door itself, but casts the sound of a voice saying, "Who let you out of the back rooms? Where was the brother that was supposed to be guarding you?" Come across as a somewhat panicked and simultaneously disgusted voice.
Everyone looks at the source of the noise, the conversation dropping suddenly. But eventually, the venerable one lifts a bony hand and begins to walk towards the entrance. Sufficiently distracted and confused, the ones staring suspiciously at Wolfrun forget to press their accusations or questions for the time being. Outside, a robed elderly man appears.
Horn is aloft and ready. Basically, when the door opens and he steps out, my owl, who was hovering in front of me, and we were silently communicating the plan, he loudly and visibly flutters, just flying north along the corridor, hoping to pull his attention long enough for you guys to spring the trap.
Thankfully, Coulter sent Thorn out to distract the line of sight. Otherwise, he would have noticed immediately the glinting armor of several men.
What the hell?
He begins to rush off after the owl.
The barrel's already here, and if they start fighting, they're probably going to knock it over anyway in the middle of the fight, and it's better to knock it over while they have some semblance of control. So he's just going to fucking knock it over and then drop the candle and hope things work out for the best.
The barrel is pushed over, splashing in a large pool. It catches fire quickly. The entire hallway now reeks of fish. It is horrible. It's like you can't remember other smells. And he is stepping in the fire. He himself has not caught light yet, but it's only a matter of seconds.
As soon as he is engulfed in flame, I flick my wrist with 3 fingers, spread in practiced form as arcane energy wells forth suddenly around my fingers, forming magical darts which fly through the air unerringly, impacting the surprised cultist.
Zaid is immediately to his feet and rushes around the spreading flame, whips out his rapier, and delivers a quick thrust towards the man's backside.
Bix is insane and ballsy enough to walk right through the fire. He simply lifts his strange spiked club and then brings it down on the man's head, smashing his porcelain mask and his skull again and again and again, then leaves the licking flames.
Lovely.
Coulter, you can see that Bix is in a frenzy. You can see that he's prowling like an animal and looking at the turned back of Zaid like a worthy target for him to attack.
Zaid! From behind! As I shout that warning, I just charge forth with my staff from behind and just overhand it to try to knock out the attacker. The madness is upon him as I swat with the staff.
Coulter, you bonk Bix Coulter valiantly. Your staff bounces off his armor, and he laughs insanely as he turns around, looking at his new prey.
Blix, stay your anger and drop your weapon. We have more to deal with further in. Otherwise, it'll be my blade entering the nape of your neck. And then I will prepare an action to attack with my rapier if he advances towards Coulter or turns towards me without dropping his weapon.
He does.
You leave me no choice!
Oh my god, roll for damage. You feel the clink of your rapier touch the front of his breastplate, and it seems like he wanted to say something, some final word, but it came out in a slurred, hushed whisper. When you pull your blade out, your rapier, he was still standing. He took a few more steps as if it appeared he was invincible. With the second step, he wavered, his claws dragging 2 lines on the side of the wall. Then he sort of fell into Coulter's arms and patted his shoulders and then fell to the floor.
Barbarism!
Brushing off my robes.
Angelus seems at a loss for words.
So Zaid is kind of like shakes himself off a bit and realizes that time is still of the essence and points to the weapon of the fallen Blix and to Coulter and asks Coulter to fasten it into the doorway of the entrance so that no one else can come in.
The first thing you notice is that there are no handles to this door. When you try to approach the door, such as you are, the mouth widens a little bit, and one of the teeth shoots out at you, though it bounces off of your shield.
Watch out for that thing! He's gonna like duck and take cover behind the pillar, I guess.
Angelus as well takes cover behind one of the pillars.
What the hell is with this bloody place?
Even the very stonework is filled with the malevolence of this place.
Angelus seems stunned or scared.
Maybe hold on barring that door just yet until we figure out this one.
I know the incantation of protection from evil, which would work on one person that mayhaps would allow entry, but I know not.
Can Zaid try to rip off a piece of burning cloth from the corpse and throw it towards the webs?
For the moment, it flew in the air, and before it hit the ground, the leathery webs receded.
It's the damn robe.
I'm gonna pull that robe out that I have while I'm watching this.
Okay, so he's going to walk over to Coulter.
So I'm retreating from the just smoke and the stink, and like waving my hand in front of me, and like, oh god, Zaid, yes.
All right, we need to decide. Do we wait for more of them to come through, or do we rush in and start whatever we need to start?
There is a wall of flames between you and the door now.
No, it's really flaming up here.
I could spend me water on it if you want.
Was there any water in the storage area?
I don't think so.
Angelus is attempting to open his back barrel.
Is that water or is that alcohol?
I go to assist.
With Coulter's assistance, he opens his back barrel and pours it over the oil and fire, dousing it.
Huzzah!
Oh.
I'm going in.
You're gonna just charge on in.
I'm tired of this oil-related plans.
No, we're done with the oil now.
I'll send my familiar to assist him.
Let's give Coulter 1 minute to figure out what he can see in there before we rush in.
Hey, all right, just hurry up.
All right, Zaid approaches just close enough for the center aperture to open.
The aperture opens. Smoke, the owl, and the smell all enter the room. Distantly, Zaid, Angelus, and Coulter can hear someone shouting,
That's the signal. Now!
The men inside spring into action. The room is a battlefield. For some reason, those armed were triggered into a frenzy of combat. With their battle cry, Zaid, you immediately are aware of this. What do you do?
Well, he's going to want to make it as far in as he can and then to press himself up and back against one of the columns.
Do so.
As I hear combat suddenly afoot, I step forth enough to get a view over the charred, sooty floor. The first target that I can see that is attacking our friends. I see him bearing weapon towards our friend, and I point, but the ray is obstructed by one of these stone columns, and it just frost rhymes the corner of the stone.
Very well. Which means it is this cultist's turn. At the explosion of combat, His gaze and attention upon Wolfrun is terminated. He turns around and hurls his orb at the distracted man in blue.
Oh shit, infighting.
This misses though and rolls across the room. Once it hits the far wall, it explodes in a huge splatter of acid, destroying most of the furniture in the far corner. Over his shoulder, he shouts, "It's happening. Go to the red corridor, quickly. I will try my best to hold them off."
But, no buts. Listen to me. Go!
At this, he relents and attempts to go around Wolfrun. He's the first to disappear in the westerly corridor. Now, one of the blue cultists turned to leap over the table in a direct path towards Coulter, but was stopped at the rolling of the orb. He turned on his heel. He hurls himself towards this individual and swings his mighty spear. Though the man he tried to attack is middle-aged, it would seem this is not his first fight. He's trained in martial arts, or is at least quick on his feet.
Die!
And then he screams something about the cold corridor. Nolame, it's your turn.
All right, Nolame in one motion glances at Wolfrun while drawing his rapier and steps behind the remaining cultist in blue and attacks him from behind.
So many things were happening at once that he neglected to include you in his next battle plans. He didn't cry out, surprisingly. He just went rigid. After you withdrew your blade, he manages to reach up with his free hand, still clutching his shield. With his fingers, he takes the gem that is holding together his turban and he crushes it like sugar in his hands. The dust glows around his hand. He says to you,
"You will pay for that, I swear."
Are you sure here, even at the end, that we can't find some way to make even the slightest amends? Are you sure you won't impart some final word before you pass on to me, who was once your brother?
It's too late. Your numbers have been allowed to swell for long enough. And if we are to be the arbiters of the end,
then we must be of one mind.
chaos
Must be controlled. For those of the dark corridor are right, and we are all fools, sheep to be led to the slaughter.
You could join us.
Nolame looks at him sadly and says, "That time has already passed, unfortunately."
Okay, I am going to use Dread Ambusher. I'm going to go for the gentleman on the other side of that stool, since the red robed guys don't seem to be posing much of a threat at the moment. So I race across the floor and take him off guard, pull out my battle axe, and move to strike him, not once but twice. The first one misses, glancing just past him, and the second one strikes true, hitting him directly between the neck and the collarbone.
The splash of blood douses the candelabra to your right. He cries out in furious anger and agony. Your first hit broke his shield. It's now barely hanging together. The second guy in blue spins around.
Then I would attack him once again with my rapier, this time aiming for the opposite side.
The strange, icy magic spreading across his arm reaches the center of his torso. You notice a significant change when you hit him next. Though you did stab through him, it took a bit more strength to pull your rapier back, and there's now a kind of blue, frosty tinge to your weapon now. And then he slumps on you, before slowly falling to the ground.
He died.
And boy, dead.
You see Agilus enter the room. Zaid, it is your turn.
He will juke out from behind the column, holding up his shield, blade pointed through the open crescent, and then attempt to run the man through.
These poor cultists who worship evil.
So Zaid rushes down the steps and closes the distance with the cultist. Shield first, though the blade is only able to travel so deep into the body before the shield gets in the way. And on his way down, perhaps he can say, "Rune's light, ward away the darkness."
When you descended upon him, this cultist was screaming, "They're here! They're here! Burn them!" But it was too late. When you connected, you could feel this was not a warrior you were killing. Most of these men didn't even have weapons, though their intent was ill enough to kill many. And so, he shrank to his knees before you. Though he was still alive, you could tell he was going to be dead in seconds. His hood unfurls, and you might have recognized him from a member of town, but it's hard to put your finger on. No one you've met, certainly. Maybe you've seen him in passing.
No one with a soul.
Not anymore. The one with the orb, he immediately tries to turn away, but in so doing, he invokes a attack of opportunity from the man in the blue, who decides to hurl his spear at the man's back. Everything was happening so quickly. Half of his attention was on Wolfrun. He was reacting from instinct alone, no longer from skill. And so, like a useless toy, his spear skitters out of reach. Wait! He implores Wolfrun.
I swiftly enter the room. He'll get behind the column for safety, and I peer into the room to assess the situation.
And Thorn conveys everything he saw through your mind.
There we are, Thorn.
All right, then I approach the northern door that I'm closest to, and I see if it is locked or not.
It is not locked.
I open the door first, just enough for me able to see through it and see if anyone's on the other side.
So what you see with your elven eyes is a long, narrow corridor. Just pretend there's a wall on the right-hand side. Where the torch is, there's also a door. And then beyond that, after that column, there's a turn. But that golden ring, it's unclear at first what that is.
Whatever movement I have left, I would move towards the golden ring thing to hopefully get a better understanding of what it is. That's about as far as I can move. Would I be able to pull the door shut behind me as I step in?
Of course, do you wish to do that?
Yes.
You close the doors behind you. It's a very dark room, although the torch in front of you is quite large.
Can I cast my prestidigitation to snuff out that torch?
Good idea. The room is completely dark now, but you can see thanks to your enhanced sight. And with your sight, you can see a trace of like shards beneath what looks like a golden frame. Maybe it was a mirror or something. To your right is a door. Wolfrun, it's your turn. Nolame just went into a side room. Cultists are dying left and right. 2 escaped. What do you do?
This gentleman in front of me is still breathing, correct?
Indeed, he just said, "Wait!"
I draw back my axe in a threat and grab him by his chest. Speak quickly.
He stammers nonsensically.
You're bleeding out. If you have anything else you need to say it now.
His eyes dart around. "Who are you?"
No one you need to know.
Let me leave. I will tell no one of this. I beg you.
You won't make it far.
How many more red ones are with you?
I look him in the eye and smile.
He seems confused.
If you're trying to stop what we're doing here, you have but pick a side. It's too late to try to stop us.
I'm of the mind that if we let it go, it would probably stop itself at this point with the infighting. What quarrel do you two have?
The destiny of this world has already been decided. It is up to us to choose who reigns over the chaos.
His head starts to nod listlessly.
I let go of him and just let him drop to the floor.
After the battle, the party took stock of the room. They didn't waste time savoring their victory and spread out at once to investigate and prepare. Coulter made his way towards a pile of maps and documents strewn about the table whilst Nolame explored further down the temple. Not long after, Wolfrun followed Nolame to help in his investigation. Sometime in her travels, a lone wandering warrior noticed a stillness in the forest near the city of Avendrad. One night, in her camp, she was ambushed. Hooded figures dogpiled her, while others bound her extremities. Though a wicker basket was placed over her head, she could still see they were taking her into the Ipindu swamps. The group of men sounded of middling years and often spoke of local grievances they had with an unfamiliar ruler. A bag was placed over her head, and she was helped up a ladder into a hanging gibbet, where she remains now. Once a day, when she is fed, a gruff voice tries to recruit her to the Temple of the Elements. After 3 days, the offers stop. The voices below begin to bicker amongst themselves. Her feeder drones on about moral relativism and a new world. It is now day 6, and they are scheduling her for a profane sacrificial ceremony. When exactly is unclear.